mochi?
Do you know our mochi? She
Okay.
said you can use this pen if you want.
Alright, thank you. Hello, very good afternoon for everyone who is joining in this afternoon for our afternoon session. Okay. Alright, thank you very much for the like. Go for our slowly streaming in. We are continuing off the paper that we finished just now during the noontime session. We will wrap up some of the remaining sections from this paper before moving on to a second set of practice papers for this live stream. Alright. Okay. So if viewers that are already here for the previous session in the morning, we've covered up to the grammar close. At this point, for people who are just joining us for this afternoon session, welcome. Thank you for joining us for this afternoon session. We'll be going to the last few questions of our grammar close passage. Alright, some of the questions we've discussed earlier already, so you can take a look at some of the notes we've already had on screen. But I'll go through them briefly also as we begin so that we can make sure everyone's on the same page, literally and figuratively, before we move off into the remaining questions that remain in this section. Okay. So as always, if you are ready, I think it'll be great if you have some writing materials on hand so that we can prepare them. At the same time, if you need writing materials, you can take down the notes on foolscap paper, on rough paper, but it'll also be good if you have a separate notebook to keep track of all your notes in one centralized location to help ease your revision process. So I'll show you a little longer as others slowly stream in. Understand that we ended a bit late just now for our noontime session, so perhaps everyone is still off taking a refresher over lunch. Okay, but as a recap for anyone who is just joining in over here, right now we're looking at the grammar close section from a P5 end of year from 2023 Maris Stella Primary School. Okay, so that is over here. Oh, and oh, look, this is none other than Mochi. Mochi is our mascot over here. Okay, he's decided to join us this afternoon for our afternoon session over here. Okay, so sure, let's wait a little longer. Right, so for those, yeah, capybara, exactly, the largest rodents, largest land-bound terrestrial rodents in the world. Yeah. So this close passage was talking about food labels. Food labels can provide one with information on healthier food products as well as help decipher the nutrient claims that may be present on food packaging. What does decipher mean over here? To decipher is to make sense of. For example, if you're trying to decipher hidden code, that means trying to make sense of hidden code. Decipher the nutrient claims that may be present on food packaging. Do you pay attention blank the food labels before purchasing your food items? Okay. So pay attention over here, the blank needs to be followed with collocation to pay attention to. Okay, option N. Option N over here to pay attention to the food labels that before purchasing your food items. Many of us are not in the habit of checking food labels regularly. According to a public survey conducted last August, only 1 blank 5 Singaporeans checks the food labels when buying packaged food. Okay, so every 1 in 5 Singaporeans. 1 in 5, option J. Many others read the labels only in specific situations. For example, when buying something for the first time or for their children with dietary needs. Okay? When buying something for the first time or for buying their children with dietary needs. Age definitely makes a difference too. Young adults in particular, blank increasingly guilty of careless shopping. In this case here, our subject we're looking at is young adults, adults in the plural. So by subject-verb agreement, you need to follow the plural form, which is option B, are. Young adults are increasingly guilty of careless shopping. The number of young adults today checking labels blank lower than in the past decade. Okay. So over here we're using the subject of number. Number is the singular, hence we use option K. Option K is the singular verb or subject verb agreement. Number of young adults today checking labels is lower than in the past decade. According to a report blank our local agricultural department, a report by indicating who is the one carrying out this report, who is the author of the report. Our local agriculture department, 52% of those aged blank 29 years old. In this case, it's above 29 years old. Read food labels. This statistic on this result is a 10% drop from the previous year. We are doing comparisons across time periods. Questions? Right. So that covers what we have went through earlier in our noon time session. So for all the viewers that are streaming in, very good afternoon for you joining in. We're taking a look at the Maris Stella P5 end of year paper from 2023. If any of you are here in from the noon time session, is there anyone here that's coming in from the noon time session just now that we ended at 1:30? Right, great to see you back again. For those who are just joining us, no worries. The sections here are all independent of one another, so don't worry if you did not come for the first part of today's live stream. Okay. Let's proceed on with our grammar close. Blank. Shoppers who read food labels tend to have something in common. They noted if the product contains fattening substances. Okay, so we are starting off with a conjunction. You know it's a conjunction because it's followed by a comma over here. Okay, so normally at the start of a sentence, if it's followed immediately by a comma, it tells you that you're looking at a conjunction to fill in this blank over here. So which do you think is the correct conjunction to fill in the blank here? If you like, you can also put in the letter representing the correct answer in the chat over here. So out of the remaining options, the one that you should use for your transition. Hi, Lost in TikTok. Hello. Hi, Sayang. Okay, how about Lost in TikTok? Sayang, what do you all think the conjunction here should be for the conjunction in question 37? We already have a few options remaining because we eliminated most of them already. So among those that are remaining, which conjunction do you think best fits this blank in question 37? Okay. What I think everyone should be heading towards would be option H. However, yep, thinkers, great job. It is however. Shoppers who read food labels tend to have something in common. They know that the product contains fattening substances. I only check blank fattening substances. This is Miss Serene Ho, aged 25, a materials engineer. She feels that fattening substances pose many health risks. Thus, it is important that everyone makes it a habit to read food labels. So for question 38, good job, thinkers, getting the right answer. Can you get the right one for question 38 as well? What is she checking here? I only check on. Okay, the check on is to monitor, to scrutinize, right? She's monitoring. However, in this case, we're looking more about checking for. She's identifying if there are fattening substances present. Okay, so good try over here, check on. Check on is used in a different context, but for this sentence over here, the closer match would be checking for, to check for fattening substances. So well done, getting the right answers there eventually. Okay. For the rest also, if you have any questions along the way or if you think you have the answer, please do not hesitate to drop in your answers in the chat. Okay. Any questions about this closed passage? So the grammar close can be tricky at times because not only are you filling in the blanks and trying to answer the questions, it's also a challenge of information management, right? You have 15 answers to choose from for every blank. So it can be difficult at times to handle all 15 options and juggle all of them at once. What I find personally useful and what I always advise my students to do is that when you're coming across 15 blanks and you think you have an answer for one of them, straight away strike it off the list of consideration over here. If you're confident that it's definitely for this blank over here, remove it from consideration so that you don't have to look over it again for other questions. Okay, so that helps you to reduce your search space. That allows you to spend less brain power in considering each and every option. Okay, so just some exam techniques also to help you along the way. Beyond just learning the language, it's so important how to learn how do we manage our time during exams. Great. So with that, let's proceed with our final section of this practice paper. Oops. Okay. We're looking at an editing passage. Okay, so for editing passage, perhaps before we begin, I can just give you a brief heads up of what editing passage we'll encounter. Okay, so Mochi, let me know along the way if Mochi you're stuck on your points, alright? For your editing passage, you'll come across two forms of mistakes over here that you need to fix or edit. You'll come across firstly spelling mistakes. Okay. Spelling mistakes of commonly misspelled words over here. Secondly, you'll also come across grammar mistakes. Grammar mistakes in terms of prepositions, verb tense, word forms. Okay. You'll be encountering either spelling or grammar mistakes. Let's take a look at this passage over here. This passage talks about unidentified flying objects, also known as UFOs. Okay. Do any of you believe in aliens in the chat? Any of you think aliens are out there in the solar system, in the galaxy? Right, so if there are aliens that do exist out there, if they wish to travel to Earth to drop by and say hello to the people living on Earth, they need to come over via a vehicle, in this case an unidentified flying object. Do you believe in unidentified flying objects? Recently, a housewife has captured amazing footage of an enormous UFO on her video while gardening. So enormous over here is a spelling error. The correct spelling for enormous, E-N-O-R-M-O-U-S. An enormous UFO on her video while gardening. A believer of UFOs, an unbeliever of UFOs, Mrs. Stamps, has maintained that the UFO hovered. Okay, so over here it's yet another spelling error. You should spell it as maintain. So it's M-A-I-N-T-A-I-N-E-D. So there's a single N in the middle over here, alright? Not a double N like we see in the misspelling. Okay, yes, good job, Sayan. Sayan, getting the right answer. Has maintained that a UFO hovered near her house for an hour. Okay, so this seems a bit strange, right? Hour starts off with a consonant H. So what is wrong over here? It starts off with a H, right? H is a consonant. We know that consonant should be preceded by A for the article. Right, so this is a unique quirk of the English language. I'm not sure if this remains true for some other languages as well, but for the English language at least, because the H that comes before hour is silent, the H is silent, that's why the article preceding it must take reference from the first pronounced letter, which is O. The H is silent, we just pronounce the hour, O-U-R, behind it. Okay, so because O is a vowel, we use the article A-N, N for vowel. Okay, yep, so good job, Sayan, getting the right answer. Just a unique quirk of the English language. She estimated that it was at least 1 kilometer wide. Both she and her husband describing the object. Okay, so describing over here, what's wrong with describing? What's the mistake? Before I give the right answer, what is the mistake committed over here? Right, we notice that the rest of this passage over here, estimated, maintained, captured, This is all in the past tense, right? So this described over here, it shouldn't be describing in the continuous, but rather described in the past tense. Okay. So when I'm making all this effort to write down what type of mistake is it, why don't I just put the correct answer without explaining what mistake is it? Well, this has two benefits. Firstly, it allows you to better understand where the mistakes lie in. The second reason it's useful also because it allows for quicker checking, right? Once you finish your paper, you have about maybe 10 to 15 minutes left. You have time to read through every question, every passage, every sentence. Probably not, right? You need to check your work quickly. Okay, so to check your work quickly and effectively, it's good that you go revisit back to the working notes you took along the way. So I go back to check when I reach my editing passage. I see, oh, okay, this box is a tense mistake. Did I reach the correct tense over here? I use past tense because I see all the previous verbs are also in the past tense. Okay? So this is a quick way for you to check your work effectively under the time limit as well. So both while doing your studies and also during your exams, putting handwritten notes along the way can help you to check your work quicker. Okay? And thank you very much, Sayang, for your kind comments as well. It's heartening to know that these live stream sessions will find it beneficial. Okay? Thank you very much. So both she and her husband described the object as pink and white in orange and blue lights. In orange and blue lights over here, not quite a case, right? We're comparing colors. The object itself is pink and white. It's covered all around by orange and blue lights. So here you shouldn't be using in, you should be using with orange and blue lights. The unidentified flying object had a dark center and beamed pulses of intense light. Okay, intense is spelled wrongly over here. It's spelled with an E in the middle, right? Intense. Intense light. The uncommon sighting flew just 2 kilometers above their home before blasted away into the night sky. In this case here, it is a mistake. It should be blasting away into the night sky. And then incredible speed over here. Do you use on in this sentence? What should you replace on with in this case for the grammar mistake? Right, I think they have answers on the board over here. You should be using at an incredible speed. They were so excited that within the next hour, they had a dozen relatives and friends over to view the footage capture. Okay, take note over here, because you have to right before it, right? So the verb that comes after must be in what form? If you have a to before the verb, it needs to be followed by, starts with a be. What form of the word should it be in? Yep, it should be in the base form. Okay, do all of you remember this? One of the first rules we learned in English grammar, right? When you have a verb that comes after to, it must always be in the base form. Okay, right, Mochi? Do you agree? Okay, I think that's a yes, Mochi. Okay, so in this case here, the base form of viewed is view. To view the footage captured. All who saw it, blank, were awestruck. Okay, here awestruck is spelled wrongly. It's a spelling mistake. How do you spell awestruck? Awestruck is spelled A-W-E for awesome, right? To be filled with awe, struck. To be struck with awe. The footage was later handed to the space experts despite a detailed study being conducted on the footage. The experts could not explain. Despite the detailed study, the experts could not explain a strange occurrence. How should you spell occurrence over here? Is it a double C? Is it a double R? Why don't you give it a shot? Now it's your turn. How do you spell occurrence? Okay. Okay, try not to use Google. Don't try not to use auto spell check or try not googling the word. Try to spell it by yourself in the chat first, alright? Because in the exams you cannot use spell check either. So how do you spell occurrence? Okay, we have some answers in. How about the rest? I hope you're not copying from the answers that are already up on screen, right? Do it by yourselves. Okay. So Sayang's answer is 90% correct, or 99.9999% correct. It's almost correct except for one mistake. Okay, so but let's go through what's correct first. We have O double C, so that's correct. You have U, so that's correct. Followed by a double R. Okay, so far so good, right? O double C, single U, double R, followed by an E. Okay, so that is where the mistake lies in. ENCE. Okay, so take note, this word is quite tricky. Many areas where people can spell it wrongly. Some people miss out on the O in the first place. Some people misspell the number of C's, miss out on the U. They got a number of R's wrong, and in the case as you've seen today just now, they miss out on the E as well. Okay, so be careful. Occurrence is a word that's pretty difficult to spell right, so make a note of it as well. Let me put a star. Okay, please take note of the word occurrence. Okay, but well done, good try for those that attempted it. Okay, it's good that we understand our mistakes so that we can know not to commit them again. Finally, for question 50, they suspected that the sighting was similar to the one captured by their own cameras. Okay, good afternoon, Swaggy. Good afternoon. Captured by their own cameras during a space shuttle mission. Okay. How do we spell similar over here? Okay, let's try it again. A chance for redemption for those that struggled just now. How do you spell similar? Okay. Yep, similar is spelled SIMILAR. Okay, well done for those who have gotten it right. You give yourself a clap or a pat on the back. Okay, and for those that are just joining in, we've just completed the editing passage in terms of correcting mistakes in spelling and mistakes in grammar. It seems like this passage over here has a majority of spelling mistakes, but more often than not, you'll see quite an even balance of spelling and grammar mistakes. Do you have any questions from the chat? Oh, Noreen, welcome back. Yes, I've had lunch. I've had lunch over the break just now. I hope everyone in the chat also has had lunch. If you're in the Singapore time zone, I hope you've all had lunch because it's quite late in the day already. If you haven't had lunch yet, please at least have had a heavy breakfast or grab a snack along the way as well. Alright? It's important to skip. If you want to have a focused mind, you need to keep your belly full first, right? It's important to have a full belly for a full mind. Okay. So today the existence of UFOs remains a mystery. So that is it for our editing passage as well as this practice paper which we started on earlier this afternoon. Okay, so moving on, we'll be moving on to a second set of practice papers over here. So give me a minute as I adjust the title of the stream to update it based on the new practice paper. Okay. Okay, so I put in the changes over here. Just give it a minute to reflect on your screens. But in the meantime, let's proceed to the next paper. This paper over here is coming from another school. There's a typo on my paper over here, so let me just make the corrections. We have a paper over here from not Maris Stella. Section. For this afternoon, for the rest of the afternoon, we'll be taking a look at the paper from Tao Nan. Okay. Anyone in the chat from Tao Nan, or you have any friends from Tao Nan school? Okay. Let's take a look at the section questions from Tao Nan school. Okay, starting off with question 1. Abram and Noah blanked each other at the camp last week. How do you go about answering this first question over here? Okay, why don't I do the first one guided? Last week tells us the point in time, right? This takes place at what time? In the past. So since it took place in the past, we must be using a verb in the past tense. Okay, yep. So good job, Val, for getting the right placement of time. Now between our options over here, which one is in the past tense? It's not befriend, it's not befriends as well. So these are not right. Befriended and were befriending, what is the difference over here? Befriended is in the simple past tense. Were befriending is in the past continuous tense over here. Past continuous, that means it was still taking place over the past. However, in the camp, they already befriended each other, right? So we should be using a simple past tense here, which is option 3, befriended. Okay, so well done. Oh, quite a lot of you got it right this time around. Maybe is this a bit too... Okay. Well done, Noreen, Thinkers, Val, and Sayang for getting the right answer. Okay. Starting off on the right foot for our new set of questions. Okay. Question 2. Let's see if question 2 is any easier for us. The king was sad as he did not have blank freedom to explore the land. We have 4 quantifiers in the options over here. We have few, little, many, and much. The quantifiers are used here to point out the noun. Our subject noun over here is freedom. Is freedom countable? Is freedom countable? Not quite, right? Freedom rather refers to the freedom to move about, to live your life as you like. So it's rather an uncountable term referring to a general group of freedoms. Okay? So with that in mind, we look at our 4 options over here. There are a few ways we can tackle this. First way is to divide them to countable and uncountable quantifiers. Among the 4 options, which quantifiers here are for countable nouns? Nouns that you can count individually. Which ones are for countable nouns? Right, I see some quick answers in the chat. Countable nouns include few and many. Okay, few and many are for countable nouns. Countable nouns. For example, if I have few friends in school or I have many friends in school, I can count each friend by themselves, so it is countable. However, little and much is used for uncountable nouns. For example, if we play a prank on our teacher in school, our teacher has very little patience to deal with us. Or our teacher has much generosity to let us play a prank on them. Okay, so those are uncountable nouns which fit the case over here. Between little and between much, which should we use in this sentence? Between little and much? Okay, students, let's not fight, alright? Teacher is uncountable, so we can all have teacher, okay? It's not a scarce resource here. Okay, so he did not have blank freedom in this case here because the king was sad. That means he could not explore land by himself. That tells us that he does not have much freedom at all. Okay. He did not have much freedom to explore the land. So in order to find this answer, you also need to read the rest of the sentence over here. Why would the king be sad? Because even though he's the king, he is the absolute monarch over the land. He doesn't have full control or freedom to exploit as he wishes. Okay, so by using these two clues together, helps points us to an answer that we are using for not having much freedom at all to explore the land. Are there any questions? All right, thank you. Thank you for your sweet words or words of music to my ears. Okay, but let's focus back on question 3 for now. All right. So well done for those that gotten it right for question 2. All right, Mochi is back in for question 3. Question 3. The teacher's words of encouragement were still blank in her ears. Okay. The keyword over here you should be looking for is still. What does still tell us? When I say, oh, I'm still waiting for my food to be arrived. Or I'm still waiting for school to be over. It's something that's still happening, right? Continuously happening. Hasn't ended yet. It has started in the past, but it hasn't ended, so it's still happening in the present. Okay, so continuous over here. What does that tell us about our verb? Our verb should then follow with the continuous tense. And among the 4 options, we have 4 different words in different tenses. We have ring for the present tense, rang for the past tense, rung for the past perfect, and we have ringing for the continuous tense. So that would be option 4. So well done, Noreen lost in TikTok, and the user with the star. I'm not sure how to say that name, but it looks like someone is trying to pick up a fight. So the viewer that wants to fight also, well done. Okay. Question 4. The show blank, please be quiet. The show blank, please be quiet. In this case here, you're looking at the show that has an action that has taken place in the past. Okay. Right now, this instruction only comes in after the show has begun, right? Okay. So this only takes place after the show started. In this case here, so what you should be using is your present perfect tense. Relating to an action that took place before what's happening in the present over here, right? Please be quiet is in your present. So the verb that comes before it should be an action that took place prior to the present. It's option 3, has begun. Okay, so once again, well done across the board. We have many good answers from Thinkers, Lost in TikTok, Noreen, and the viewer that wants to fight. Okay, well done. Okay, Sayang says, Chia, I want attention. Okay, sure. Drop in your answer in the chat, Sayang, then I'll give attention also. Okay. If you have any questions along the way also, feel free to drop them in the chat so that we can pay attention to them together as a live stream. Okay, final question in the first set of 5 questions for MCQ. If Rajan blank about the competition, he would definitely take part in it. If Rajan blank about the competition, he would definitely take part in it. How do you answer this question over here? What we see at the start is the word if. If points to a conditional, right? If something, then something. Okay. Right, so this can be a bit tricky, right? When you have a conditional, what should the tense be? Where do you find the clues to fill in this blank with? In this situation, it can be a bit uncertain, or you're too unsure about how to go about solving this. I might find useful, or what you might find useful for yourself, is that you can take reference from the verb in the second half of the sentence. So see the second half of the sentence. He would definitely take part in it. Would. We look at would. Would is in the what tense? Would is in the past tense, right? The present tense of would is will. The past tense of will is would. Okay, yes, exactly right. So since this should be the past tense, it should also follow that whatever comes here is also matching the same tense. So you need a verb over here that remains in the simple past tense. With that in mind, what do you think our answer should be now? Yes, in this case here, then stick with option 1 in the simple past tense, new. Okay, so good job, thinkers. Good job, Noreen. Good job. Wait, thinkers, Noreen, and the viewer that wants to fight. Well done, all of you, for getting the right answers. Okay. Yes, but you can see just now, earlier on, some of us had a different answer, so probably this is a question we should pay closer attention to. Alright, for conditional questions, match the tense according to the second half of the statement for the will verb here. Okay, so just be mindful of this point. Any question for our first set of 5 questions? Any clarifications? Lingering doubts? Okay. Alright, if it's good, thumbs up so that we know that we are good to proceed. Okay. On to question 6. Question 6. Mr. and Mrs. Reyes blank sailing around the world for charity and will end their journey next month. Okay, so this question has a lot of moving parts to it. Let's break them down one by one. Okay. Firstly, we go from the back. We go from the front. Mr. and Mrs. Reyes. How many people are there? 2 people, right? Mr. Reyes, Mrs. Reyes. So we know that they are plural. Okay. Anyone disagrees here? Why is it not plural? Okay. Multiple people, more than one, right? So we have plural subject. Sailing around the world for charity. Okay. Sailing, we already saw just now. Sailing, if it's a continuous tense, right? That means it's something that they have started off in the past, and as we know later on in the second half of the sentence, they will end their journey next month. Will end, will over here points to it being the future tense, right? They will do something in the future. In the future, in the next month, they will end their journey. So that means right now in the present, have they ended their journey? Not yet. They will do it next month, but not this month, not right now. So among our 4 options over here, which best carries the idea of them which option best conveys the idea of Mr. and Mrs. Reyes sailing around the world in the present? Right? So as Thinkers and Noreen have pointed out, you're looking at option 3, have been, right? Have over here because, again, plural subject. Mr. Reyes, Mrs. Reyes, 2 people, plural. Well done, Thinkers. Well done, Noreen. Seven. By emerging first in the photography contest, I had won blank myself a pair of free tickets to the zoo. Okay. So this can be a pretty tricky at first sight. Let's take a minute to break down the question. By emerging first, I had won myself a pair of free tickets for the zoo. A pair of free tickets to the zoo. So this indicates the recipient of the free tickets, right? Who was the one that received the free tickets? Myself, right? I received it. So in order to indicate that this action is working towards the recipient of this action over here, you should be using for. Okay, I received this action, I want for myself. Yes, so Noreen and Thinkers correct once again. Okay, 2 correct answers in a row now from on this page. Okay. How about the rest? For the rest, maybe the post-lunch coma is slowly setting in, but let's try to keep ourselves up and awake as we go through the couple of questions come up. Okay. Question 8. The newspapers are on that table. Blank, you need to refer to them to complete your project. Okay, so what we have over here are a group of what we call modal verbs. Modal are used to affect or to influence the verb that follows after it. Okay? Blank, you need to refer to them to complete your project. How should you use them in this sentence over here? Among these 4, must is used to indicate necessity. You must do something. Must for necessity. Could is to indicate ability. Could you turn off the lights, or could you stand up for me, right? Do you have the ability to carry this out? Would refers to a future scenario, also known as a hypothetical. As we saw just now, right? If Rajan knew about the competition, he would have studied for it. So he would is a hypothetical for the future. Should is used for condition. If I will ask for permission should I need to leave the classroom. Should is just to indicate a conditional. In this case here, should you need to refer to them is option 4. If you need to refer to newspapers to complete your project. So well done for those that have gotten it right. Yes, exactly. Noreen has pointed out correctly, right? If you go to a classroom and everyone is quiet, it feels very awkward to speak out. And you might think that if you speak out in class, it's a bit worrying because others will be looking at you. But guess what? Everyone else in class is just as afraid as you are to speak out. Everyone is just as afraid to think, oh, if I say something wrong, people might think less of me. But that isn't true. All you need is just one person to start making a difference, to start showing a change, that we are speaking out not because we want to suck up attention, but because we want to find out and learn more. Everyone is accepted, everyone can learn safely in this conducive environment. Okay? So please do not feel worried about, or please do not hesitate about sharing your answers in the chat, alright? That way we can all learn together and helps create a more vibrant environment for all of us to learn. Okay? Hello, for our viewers joining in. Question 9. The student, blank speech I like, has been selected to represent the school in an oratorical contest. What is oratorical over here? Let's get that out of the way because it's pretty unfamiliar to some of us. Oratorical refers to public speaking. Okay. Yes, exactly. We're all learning over here as well. So if you want to be good at something, you need to be bad at it first, right? That's one of the things that I've always told my students. Every time you feel like, oh, I don't study English because I'm always bad at it. Well, if you want to be good at something, you first need to be bad at it. No one can skip from not knowing something to becoming good immediately, right? So it's important to keep practicing, keep realizing and working on your mistakes. Oratorical refers to public speaking. The student, blank speech I like. Okay, let's not get carried away. Blank speech I like over here. Who does this speech belong to? Mochi, who does this speech belong to, Mochi? Okay. This speech belongs to the student, right? Because the student is the one who prepared the speech, who wrote it, who practiced it, and delivered the speech. So how do we use our options over here? Among the options over here, the first 3 are all relative pronouns relating to the subject or the object of a sentence. However, option 4 Option 4, whose, is a possessive pronoun. What is a possessive pronoun over here? Think about it. You see the word possess. If you watch scary movies, you know possess, it means to take over, to control, right? So possessive over here is just to indicate ownership. Possessive pronouns are used to indicate ownership. Whose water bottle is this? Whose pencil case is this? To indicate who is the owner of this item, of this object. So keeping that in mind, we go back to the speech over here. Who does this speech belong to? Who was the one that wrote the speech? Who was the one that practiced it? Who was the one that delivered the speech? It's the student. So in this case here, we should be using option 4, whose, to indicate ownership of the speech belonging to the student. So well done for those who have gotten it right once again. Okay. And those who may not have gotten the right answer, thank you very much for joining in with your answers as well. A wrong answer is just as valuable as a right answer because that allows us to understand where we are towards getting the right answers and the understanding of the language over here. Okay, so both right and wrong answers are very valuable in this exercise. Right, final question. You have to admit the idea is original. Blank you. This question can be a bit tricky, so let me flag this out for now. You have to admit the idea is original, blank you. How do you answer questions like these? This is a very popular style of questions, especially in the recent years. That's why they show up quite often in some of our practice papers. You start off with a main statement over here. A main statement that can be read as a sentence by itself. However, this main statement is slightly changed or adjusted with a question tag at the end of it. Question tag. Question tag because of the question mark over here. What is in the question tag? It has a verb followed by a subject. Subject here referring to a person. In this case here, the subject must match the one in the main statement. In the main statement, who is the person being addressed to over here? You, right? You is the subject. So the subject over here should be you. And that's the case over here, right? We see you. So no issues there, correct? Correct subject. How about the verb? How should we go about solving for this verb over here? There are 2 rules we need to follow. Okay. First rule, it must be a verb in the same tense. Second rule, it must be a verb of the opposing action. Where's our frame of reference? We look at the main statement over here. What is the verb in the main statement? What is the verb in the main statement? Is the verb have? Is have the verb over here? Okay. Some students might think, oh, have is a verb, so this is the verb I take reference from. But you did not read the rest of the sentence, right? What happens when you continue reading? You have to. What does it mean when you say you have to? When you say you have to, it means you must, right? You by necessity. So what we have here is actually not a verb, but a modal verb. As we've discussed earlier, what a modal does is to modify the word the verb that comes after this. And in this case here, the verb that we should be taking reference from is admit. You have to admit. You must admit. So with this idea, what is the tense of admit over here? Okay, the tense of admit is present tense. Anyone disagrees? Anyone thinks that admit is of a different tense here? Okay, good. So we settled the first criteria. How about the second criteria? What do I mean by opposite action here? If my action over here is do admit, what is the opposite of do admit? If I do admit to the idea, the opposite of it is we see do not admit, right? The opposite of doing something is not doing it. Yes? So the opposite of do admit is do not admit. So we should be taking our answer from here. Among the four options that remain, which best fulfills the two rules that we put in place? I think we have Thinkers, Noreen, and Victoria coming in with your answers, which are all correct. Option 1, don't. Okay, so well done for the three of you getting in the right answers. Okay, so it's good if you have instinctively gotten the right answer, but at the same time, it's important to be conscious of how we reach these conclusions as well. Right? If you unconsciously come to these conclusions because it's part of our daily speech, that is great, but at the same time, that might lead to unexpected mistakes along the way. So every now and then, it's good to practice and go back to establish our language fundamentals such that we remain conscious about why certain language rules are followed in this way. Any questions? Okay. If there are no questions, let's proceed to vocab section. Alright, vocab section, perhaps some of you might find it easier, some of you might find it tougher, depending on your familiarity with the language. For vocab section, here's a quick outline of what we're looking at over here. Similar to grammar, you also have 10 vocab MCQ questions. Okay. However, that's where the similarities end, because vocab MCQ questions will take two forms. The first one was what we saw just now during the grammar section. It's fill in the blanks. You'll be given a sentence with a word missing. Your job is to fill in the missing word from one of the four options given to you. Okay? There'll be a total of 5 fill in the blank vocab MCQ questions. How about the remaining 5 over here? The remaining 5 will be substitution questions. What are substitution questions? You'll be given a sentence with one or more words underlined. Your job will then be to switch out, replace the underlined word or words with the most suitable option among those that remain. So again, there'll be 5 substitution or replacement vocab questions. So let's start off with the 5 fill in the blanks. The man blanked the rope tightly, as he was afraid he would fall. Here we see 4 actions over here, all relating to verbs. The first one, if you haul something, to haul is to pull or to lift or carry something that is heavy. For example, you can say, every morning I have to haul my backpack to school because it's weighed down by all my textbooks, right? So to haul your backpack to school, it's to lift or carry something that is heavy. How about lug? You might not have seen the word lug before. But it looks quite similar to the word luggage, right? Luggage that you carry, that you bring with you when you go on vacation, when you go on a holiday. Luggage is usually pretty heavy, you know, and you need to drag it against the floor. So to lug is to pull with effort or to pull with difficulty. Okay. During the holidays, we had to lug our suitcases to the airport, right? So to pull something with effort and difficulty. Clasp. What does it mean to clasp? Okay. To clasp over here, it means to hold something firmly. To hold it firmly between your hands. To hold something firmly between your hands, right? That is to clasp something between your hands. And finally, to drag. To drag, I think all of you know what that means, but it means to pull along a surface. Okay. So what's the difference between lug and drag in this case here? Both of them have the action of pulling, right? Do they mean the same thing? Not quite. For lugging, it's to pull with difficulty. For dragging, it's to pull, but the difficulty here is optional. For example, you can say, I drag a chair across the floor. Do you put a lot of effort to drag the chair? No. In this case here, the difficulty is optional. You can still drag something easily. So there's a slight difference in intensity required for the action of pulling. Right, and after discussing all the four meanings over here, which of the four words do you think best describe the idea of the man holding the rope tightly as he was afraid to fall? Okay, I think Noreen has an answer. How about the rest of you? Do you all agree? Or do you have a different answer? Looking at the sentence, the man is afraid to fall, right? This tells us there's a certain degree of desperation. He was feeling desperate. He was feeling hopeless over here. So think about that. If he's feeling desperate as if he would fall to his death, how would he hold onto the rope? He would hold onto it and not let go, right? So that fits in with option 3, to hold it firmly in his hands. Can you say I drag my feet to school every morning? Yes, you can say that. To drag, so to drag with a certain, pull along with a certain resistance also, because you're unwilling to go to school. So yes, you can definitely say you drag your feet to school every morning. To answer that question from Noreen, you can certainly drag. If you say you drag your feet, maybe as an additional point, to drag your feet is an idiom. Drag my feet is an idiom referring to being unwilling, having an unwilling attitude to do something. For example, if the teacher were to say, make sure you hand in your homework punctually, do not drag your feet when starting this project. Okay, so this tells you that do not take a break, do not be unwilling, make sure you start on this project or this piece of homework quickly. Okay. So you drag your feet, that means you have an unwilling attitude to a certain task or an exercise. Question 12, again on the topic of idioms. Jamila blanked after learning that she was not selected as the star pupil. So over here, these are all idioms also similar to drag my feet. Idioms are phrases that are not meant to be taken literally over here. Rather, it's meant to be taken figuratively. What do each of these idioms mean? To break the ice. Okay. You may not have seen this expression before, break the ice, but if you go to school camp or if you're in a new class, you normally conduct icebreaker activities, right? So in this case, what is the purpose of icebreakers? Icebreakers are used to get strangers to warm up to each other, right? To reduce the awkwardness when you're meeting someone for the first time. So to break the ice is to got to know strangers. I was new to this class, but after I broke the ice with my fellow classmates, we became the best of friends after I got to know strangers that I did not know prior. To sit on the fence over here, when someone is sat on the fence, that means they are undecided. For example, you could say, I sat on the fence about joining this live stream or taking an afternoon nap. Okay, so perhaps if you're undecided about joining here today or going to take a nap during this afternoon, it means you're undecided, you're sitting on the fence. Okay, you could go with either decision, either side. To pull a long face. Okay, to pull a long face is to look glum or depressed. Yep, can you sad and disappointed as well? Okay. After hearing the bad news, I put a long face. Okay. So to look glum or to look upset. And finally, to shed crocodile tears. What does it mean to shed crocodile tears? Any animal zoologists in the chat are interested in crocodiles? Do crocodiles cry? Do crocodiles cry out of sadness? So crocodiles, like other reptiles, do not have sweat pores on their skin. If you look at me, a human being, a mammal like you, I have pores on my skin that allow sweat to escape, right? However, crocodiles, like other reptiles, do not have pores on their skin to sweat. So how do they sweat? They allow the sweat to gather on their eyelids and then they expel the sweat from their eyelids, which looks like teardrops. Okay. So as a result, when this sweat drips from their eyes, they may look like they're crying, but actually it's just sweating. So it shows that expressing sadness that isn't really genuine. So that's where this expression comes from. If you say you shed crocodile tears, that means you're insincere or not genuine about showing your sadness. Okay, for example, in a sentence you could say, when I found out my class enemy got punished by the teacher, I shed crocodile tears in front of them. Okay, so you could say that, oh, I want to appear sad and sorrowful in front of them, but in the inside, I'm actually very happy that my class enemy got punished by the teacher. Okay, so an insincere or not genuine sadness. Okay. So with all these ideas in mind over here, among the four options, which best captures the idea of Jamila learning that she was not selected as the star pupil? Okay. Star pupil over here definitely is a very worthy title to aspire towards. If she was not selected, how do you think she would feel? She'd feel disappointed, she'll feel sad. But would it be genuine disappointment? Would it be real, true, or false disappointment here? I think Mochi thinks it should be true disappointment over here, right? Because after working hard for it, she still was not selected for star pupil, hence she was truly disappointed about not being selected. So let's go with option 3, pulling a long face. Is that clear for everyone? Okay. So idioms can be particularly tricky, especially if you don't read widely. Okay, so do take your time whenever you can have a break. Whenever possible, you can go take a break, read through some books, right? If you are in school, during recess time, the weather outside is really hot. So if you don't want to go outdoors, you can go to the school library to hide from the heat. And while you're there, why don't you try checking out some books in the school library? You can learn some idioms along the way. Okay. Question 13. The water in the tank was so blank that we could not see the fishes clearly. The water in the tank was so blank that we could not see the fishes clearly. All these 4 options over here refer to optical clarity, whether or not you can see something easily. But how do they differ? Firstly, dim. Dim is used to refer to a lack of brightness. A lack of brightness, a lack of light, right? I turned on the lights because the room was very dim. Okay, so a lack of brightness, a lack of light. However, dull is used to indicate a lack of shine or a lack of color. For example, you could say your school uniform is very dull, okay, because your school uniform is lacking color, lacking vibrancy. Dim, yes, dim is used for lighting, while dull is used rather about color, okay, color or shine. How about hazy and murky? Hazy and murky are both used for visibility, right? Both of them can be used to describe a lack of visibility. However, how do they differ? When do you use hazy, when do you use murky? To talk about something being unclear. Hazy is used to refer to the air or the atmosphere, right? When I looked out the window this morning, the air was hazy, so I could not clearly see through the air. You can also use hazy for memories. I tried to recall what it was like to be studying in P1, but my memories were hazy. I cannot recall clearly what happened in the past. Okay? So hazy can be used for atmosphere or memories. Murky is used specifically for liquids. Okay? Murky is used for liquids. For example, I had to drink a murky bowl of soup when I was feeling unwell. Okay, so murky referring to liquids. In this case here, our subject is the water in the tank. We're looking at water in the tank over here. So we're looking at the medium of liquids. So we should be using option 4, murky. Okay, well done, Noreen, getting the right answer once again. Okay. How about any other questions from the other viewers in the chat? Okay. So be careful with this question 13. All of the 4 words relate to a different dimension of light. Okay. However, they are used in different descriptions over here, as you can see. Light in terms of its intensity and brightness, light in terms of its shine or color, and also whether light passes through the air or passes through liquid. Okay, so be careful about your precision of language over here. Okay? Right. Question 14. Since the 2 movies are screen blank, we have no choice but to choose one. Okay. So before we try to fill in this blank over here, we have to look at the rest of the sentence, right? Right, Mochi? Yeah, okay. Pay attention, Mochi. We have no other choice but to choose one. Okay. So in what situation will we have to choose between 2 movies? In what kind of situation will we have to choose only one of the 2 movies to watch? When they are playing at the same time, right? Because we can only be in one movie theater at a time, we cannot split ourselves into clones. So we can only watch one movie at a time. We cannot watch 2 movies at the same time. So among the 4 answers over here, the one that captures the idea of 2 things happening at the same time is simultaneously. Okay? For example, you could be simultaneously watching this live stream while having a snack or drinking water. Okay, so simultaneously. When do you use consecutively? Consecutively are when actions take place in sequence. Okay? For example, if you scored AL1 for your WA1 and WA2, then you can say you scored consecutive AL1s because you scored them in sequence, right? For WA1 and WA2. Or let's say if you're in school this week, you ate chicken rice for lunch on Wednesday, Thursday, and today as well. Okay, so you say I ate chicken rice for 3 consecutive days. Okay, so in the sequence, without any break or pause. Any questions about how to differentiate these words? Alright, on to question 15. You're sneezing non-stop. I think you may be blank with a cold. So this one is pretty tricky. You have to be careful. These are what we call phrasal verbs. What are phrasal verbs? Well, starting off with the first word, phrasal, coming from the word phrase. A phrase is a sequence of 2 or more words that form a single meaning, right? A phrase. So a phrasal verb is a phrase that is meant to be read as a single action or a single verb. For example, to pay attention to is a phrasal verb. It means to concentrate, to focus, right? It's made out of 3 words, pay attention to, but it has the single verb meaning or the action meaning of listening, focusing, concentrating on what's in front of you. So pay attention is a phrasal verb. How about our 4 options over here? What do they each mean? Okay. To come onto is to approach. For example, after thinking about this problem, I'm coming onto a solution. That means I'm approaching a solution to the problem. To come down with something is to be ill with. And that's where we can see the answer over here, right? I'm coming down with a fever, I'm coming down with a cold. I'm falling sick to a cold or fever. Are there any questions about phrasal verbs? Okay, so perhaps phrasal verbs can be a bit difficult as well if you're not familiar with the usage of phrasal verbs, so just pay attention to question 15. So that brings us to our first set of 5 vocab questions about fill in the blanks. Do you have any points that we'd like to go through or to revisit from these questions here? Right, if there are no further questions, let's proceed on with the substitution. I think we have about 10 minutes or so remaining today in our live stream. So let's cover this last section before we end off, alright? This section talks about bats. Any of you likes bats? Any of you like Batman? Okay, probably not. Gina loved bats. In fact, she had 20 bats hanging around at her home. She did not live in a bat cave, on the contrary. She lived in a house that was turned into a bat shelter by night. So the first question we are faced with is on the contrary, question 16. We're looking for a conjunction that carries the idea of on the contrary, against expectation. Okay, so we go back to question 16 at the bottom of the page. Where is my okay. Question 16 at the bottom of the page. We need a conjunction over here that captures the idea of against expectations. Among our 4 options over here, which carries the idea of something being against expectation? We have 4 conjunctions on screen. If you're familiar with conjunctions, you should be sticking with option number 1 instead. Instead, that means to be against expectations. How about the other 3 options? What do they each mean? Likewise means similarly, along the same train of thought. Therefore is used as consequently or as a result. I did not study for my test, therefore I scored badly. Okay? As a result. Furthermore is used as in addition to. In addition to, furthermore. Any questions on these conjunctions? Alright, so back to our passage. On the contrary, she lived in a house that turned into a bad shelter by night. You would not find these little creatures relaxing on benches, but you might find 1 or 2 of them snuggling up to Gina. So our word to replace over here is relaxing. And let's take a look at the bottom of the page, question 17. We have huddle, lounge, snooze, and hibernate. Which of these 4 verbs over here best carries the idea of relaxing? To relax, to unwind, to chill. Which of these 4 over here carries the idea of relaxing on the benches? To huddle is to squeeze together tightly, or to collect together tightly. For example, when we went to River Wonders, we huddled in front of the panda enclosure to get a view of the pandas. Right, so to huddle is to squeeze together tightly. To snooze is to take a short nap. On the bus home from school, I always snooze on the bus. So I always take a short nap on the bus home from school. And finally, hibernate, right? Hibernate is to take a long slumber. After finishing all my exams, I went into hibernation, right? I took a really long sleep after finishing all my exams because I was finally done. Right? So between all the options over here, the one that best matches the idea of to relax is to lounge. Okay, to lounge is to recline on, to unwind and to distress and to relax. So lounge is the closest match among the 4 options here. Moving on. At her home, Gina had taken care of bats with injuries, such as a broken wing. She had also excuse me. She had also cared for bats that were left behind for the winter, because they did not travel south before low temperatures set in. Okay. Left behind. So you're looking for a word that replaces the word left behind to be abandoned. Be abandoned by others. Which of these 4 words over here carries the idea best about being abandoned by others? Okay, we have trapped, isolated, detained, and stranded. Some of them are closer than others, but let's take a look at each. Okay, trapped, as we have explained, to be trapped is to be stuck in a place with no escape. Okay, stuck with no escape. No escape. To be detained is to be imprisoned against your will. Imprisoned against your choice. To be isolated. To be isolated, it means to be excluded, to be separated. Right? If you fell ill and you contracted the COVID-19 virus, coronavirus, you had to be isolated from the rest of your family to prevent it from being spread. So to be separated or to be excluded. In this case, however, the one that best suits the answer is option 4, stranded, right? If you know of you who enjoy reading about history and pirates, you know that pirates sometimes strand the people that they wish to punish on deserted islands. So to leave someone stranded is to leave them somewhere such that you leave someone behind without any resources to fend for themselves, to abandon them. So option 4, stranded, is the closer match here. With the help of a vet, Gina nursed these winged mammals back to health and then set them free. When Gina was little, she grew up on a farm where bats were a common sight. Okay, so common over here. Common refers to something that is everyday, that is regular. A regular or normal sight. Which do you think best fits the answer of something being regular or normal? Right, the one you would see is option 3, familiar, right? Something that is familiar to you. How to use the others in a sentence? Rare. Rare is something that is hard to find or hard to witness. Once in a blue moon, if you have heard this expression before. Hard to find, hard to witness. Unique. Something that is unique is something that is one of the kind, something that is special. Special, one of its kind. Okay. Cannot be repeated, you won't find it elsewhere. Okay, one of a kind, something that's special. While surprising is something that is unexpected. Okay. Not really what we see over here because she grew up on a farm where bats were a common sight, something you see regularly, normally, so it definitely will not be unexpected over here. Hence, the only answer that fits is option 3, familiar. Back to the passage. Thus, it was no surprise how quickly she took to an orphaned baby bat she found squeaking on the ground outside her house. She immediately fed it goat's milk. To her delight, the bat survived the night. She had helped bats ever since. See, looking over here, took to is yet another example of a phrasal verb. Okay, so take note. Same as question 15 from the vocab MCQs. To take to something is a phrasal verb. Okay. To take to is to show an interest in. She showed an interest to the abandoned orphaned baby bat. Among our final 4 options for today, which best carries the idea of showing an interest in something? Okay, what do we think over here? Last one for the day before we cap off. Who will get the last right answer for the day? Okay. Which of these 4 verbs over here carries the idea of showing an interest? Okay. So in this case over here, what you should be looking at is option 1. Like, yes, the sky is very dark. I think it'll be a rainstorm soon. Alright, so before the thunder comes in and interrupt the live stream, let me wrap up over here. To like, to show an interest in, okay, favorite and preferred. Favorite and preferred should only be used when you choose something among its other options. For example, if you say, oh, my parents prefer my sister to me, or my parents favor my sister over me, okay, that shows to choose among their options. And finally, to welcome is to accept, or to welcome is to introduce someone new or a stranger. Not quite what we're looking for over here. We're looking to explain a word show an interest in, which is best met by the word like. Any questions about taking to for the phrasal verb? Otherwise, any questions for any of the vocab questions we've covered for this passage for substitution? Alright, if there are no questions, I think that very neatly wraps things up for us this afternoon. We've covered the sections we plan to cover for this afternoon. We need to sign off for now because I think Mochi, the capybara, is afraid of thunder. He wants to go hide out in his burrow, so he won't be sticking around. So we'll be ending the live soon. But thank you very much for joining us on this Friday afternoon. As some of us have pointed out earlier, thank you very much. Have a good weekend ahead of you. And remember to close your windows soon because it looks like it's about to rain. Alright, if you have any laundry hanging out, if you're scared of thunder, make sure you close your windows out there. See you all next time.